Hi, welcome back. In case you missed it, we're going to be talking about what happened last week in terms of birthright citizenship, the Supreme Court ruling. We're going to also be talking about primary elections in Arizona. Yay! And also share some stories of impact. But before we get started, I was 37 years old when I had my first espresso shot. And hey, I've been missing audio. That's been my favorite summer drink. So if you have any recommendations, please put them in the chat. All right, let's get into it. On June 30th, 2026, the Supreme Court of the United States, it ruled 6-3 with basically stating and affirming the 14th Amendment as we know it, that if you are individuals born in the United States, they are considered to be, for all intents and legal purposes, a U.S. citizen. And we can go into the legal realms and what they were trying to go. At the core of it, they were trying to say that somebody here who has themselves are undocumented and their parents are undocumented and they're born here or don't have legal status, what they call birth tourism, basically, if somebody's here on vacation and they have a child, or they intentionally are pregnant and come into the U.S., have a child here, and then leave with the sole purpose to have dual citizenship for the economic and world benefits of being a U.S. citizen, because the U.S. citizenship has a lot of influence all across the world, if we're honest about it. What they were trying to say is those individuals are not true U.S. citizens, and therefore they're not to be considered U.S. citizenship. But in my opinion, at the core of it, the Trump administration and to a large extent the MAGA movement is trying to redefine what does it mean to be an American. And in my eyes, they're using the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship as a legal means to say that these people are Americans and these people are not. And it's, in my eyes, it's very hypocritical and it's very inconsistent with the values of American as a whole, right? We're celebrating the 250-year anniversary of the U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence from England, the United Kingdom, back in 1776. And for so long, one of the things that set apart the U.S., one of the reasons why, in World Cup terms, the U.S. is learned in Spanish as la selección de todos, or the team for everybody, because it never mattered where you were born. It didn't matter what your status, your parents' status. What mattered was when you were here in the U.S., what were the values that you had? Did you live up to the ideals of what it is to be an American? Did you follow those laws and those principles? And that's what it meant to be an American for the longest time. Even then, President Ronald Reagan, his whole concept was like, anybody can be an American. Like, it's not about where you were born or where your family come from, what generation. It's about who you want to be and what you can contribute. Even the Statue of Liberty, it was bring me your poor, your huddle master's journey to be free. It was like these individuals who, for a lot of different reasons, economic, political, fled their countries and came to this country and built a life here to improve not only their community, but their society as a whole. And that was what it was to be an American. Now, MAGA and Trumpism is trying to redefine that and be more like, no, we get to decide. And certain individuals, because they don't have legal status, are not American. To an extent, it has gone even to now certain people, if you criticize the administration, you criticize the president, you criticize the political party, then you're not considered to be an American. You're an enemy of the state. And that's something that is very new to mainstream America. But for me, that's something that I really loved about growing up as a little kid, reading the books and reading about the history of it, of individuals who really shaped the country. They were not born here in the U.S. The Star Spangled Banner was not written by a U.S.-born person. It was an immigrant who wrote that, and that's the national anthem. The first president of the United States, George Washington, was not born here in the U.S. He's considered one of the greatest leaders. Some of the innovators that we have were not here born. They came from other places and continue to come to places to innovate, because America was the land of innovation, of freedom, of you can be anything that you want to be so long as you put in the work. Yeah, you had a little bit of luck and support. And at the core of it, that's what this court case was trying to challenge. And wants to be able to decide who gets to be an American. And that's a very dangerous thing, because that's never been the core and essence of this country. Oh, primaries. The election that is so important that nobody talks about. And the way the primary works is that In the general election, you have Democrat versus Republican. Typically, we have two-party system. In the primary, basically, Democrats go against Democrats, Republicans go against Republicans. The winner of that election comes together and then runs in the general election. And because we have gerrymanders basically is the politicians or political parties get to decide their voters instead of their voters electing the politicians. And we know all the gerrymanders going on, right? Everybody can go back to Trump saying in Texas, we need 5 more Republican districts so we can keep the House. And then Democrats doing the same thing in California or the same thing in Virginia. And that's been the process. In the state of Arizona, we have an independent redistricting committee, which there is some gerrymandering. Like if you look at some of the districts, like they're kind of weird, but they're less so than other ones. But they still are. And for example, here in the state of Arizona, we have 30 legislative districts, state legislators. We have 1 senator, so we have 30 per district, 30 senators, and we have 2 representatives per district, 60 representatives. In total, we have 90. Out of those 30 legislative districts, 24 of them are considered to be safe or safe districts for the political party, meaning 6 are competitive, meaning six of those 30 are going to matter at the general election, and they get to decide who gets to control the legislature. Those other 24, what really matters is the primary election. So on July 22nd, whoever votes, whoever wins, is going to be the one who actually represents the election. So it's very important that people come out to vote. In primaries, we have about 35% in 2022. That was the last time we had a midterm election that came out to vote. So about a third, give or take, get to select who basically runs the country. Registered voters. That's not a voters, right? We have a voter registration around half of the population, so a little over 50%. So if we're talking about half of 35 is like 18, 19%, they get to decide the who runs our government. So 18%, they tend to be the most passionate on both extremes, right? The thing that really matters, and sadly, and that's why we have so much dysfunction and disagreement, because is 18 to 20% of the most passionate individuals, those individuals who are really plugged in into voting, I get to decide how the government runs. And that's one of the issues, in my opinion, that we have in dysfunction political, because we have only the very extremes who get to decide. And again, we talk about 20% of the people who register to vote, and then within is like 10 to 12% of Republicans, 10 to 12% of Democrats. And that's that's the issues that we have. And that's why we can't get in the middle and compromise and make progress, even if you don't get everything that you want, but it's something that's good to move forward. The other races that you should come out to watch in the primary is going to be the governor's race, mostly on the Republican side. On the Democratic side, the current governor has no challenge, so she's going to win. On the Attorney General, also there's mostly on the Republican side. Again, Democratic side doesn't have a challenge. And then the other one is the Department of Education. Actually, Democrats and Republicans, both of them have challenges. And it's going to be interesting, whoever wins and gets to decide who's going to run up against a Democrat and a Republican. I'm going to go on a couple of dates that are important. It's going to be July 10th. It's the last day to register. Last day to request an early ballot or replacement ballot by mail. July 14th is the last day you can send your mail-in ballot. July 17th is the last day to vote early in person. And July 31st is primary election day. You can stay in line up to 7 p.m. Make sure, if you're in line, make sure to vote. Like, I have been in so many party elections, and I have seen individuals who just get there at 7:01, and they're like, I can just get there and I'll be able to, and no, your vote doesn't count. So make sure to do so. If you're like, I'm not sure, I don't know if I'm gonna work or something, vote in mail, request your ballot, do it early. As somebody who can vote, that's something I would love to do. Just do it. Seriously. I don't know what's stopping you. And if you don't know, you can always research. Again, do the best that you can. There's a lot of guides out there from people. And please vote. I don't know how else to tell you. Por favor, please, por favor, just vote. Thank you. Some sad news came out yesterday. I want to first applaud the courage of Lorenzo's son, who's a teacher, to do that powerful press conference and talk about his dad. In case you haven't heard. And there's videos out there and images up for you all to consume. I have chosen Not to see them, but if you want to, it's up to you. Sometimes I just don't have the stomach for it. But yesterday, on July 7th, Lorenzo Salgado Araujo was killed by ICE agents in Houston, Texas. According to his son at the press conference, he was picking up his worker because he runs a construction company, picking them up for work and taking them home when ICE encountered them. Seemed to be an interaction and ultimately ended it with his life. There was what he mentioned was saying, which in Spanish is me están matando, in English means they're killing me, which some individuals connected to then George Floyd, I can't breathe, kind of the last words that you would hear. It's a very sad and tragic story because we have the loss of a 52-year-old family man. Regardless of what you think, his immigration status shouldn't be in the country, and I disagree, but you can have your opinion and we can have a debate. I just believe that human life is sacred. I believe that life is a gift and we should protect it as much as we can. And it's very painful for me, and it's very frustrating that life can be taken very easily and by the state, by the government, and trying to justify that it's, for me, it makes no sense. Regardless of their immigration status, where they come from, their name, I think we should do everything to protect it as much as we can because it's just a gift. Like, life is beautiful. And like, it's great to be alive. Like, yes, you're gonna have difficult moments and that's challenging, but like, you can be with your family, you can be with your friends. Like last weekend, I was just enjoying the Mexico game, and sadly we lost to England, but it was like that experience, and like, you have family, and you have birthdays, and you see your kids grow, if you have kids, and you see your family members, and you joke around, all that thing can be gone. And it's just very sad that this happened to Lorenzo, and this is happening right now, where we hear stories of immigrants dying in ICE detention behind closed doors, and we don't know what's happening. And I hope that Lorenzo's family as well, I send them my best. And if they teach us anything, please, and let's just be as kind as we can to each other. And to anybody here, just here at Aliento, we try to be there for people as best as we can. If you need help and support, you can always contact us. And if there's just something very pressing, message us directly. We try to support you as best as we can, but we're just here for the community. If this feels overwhelming, know that you're not alone, because it is honestly, it's overwhelming. To see all these images, hear all these stories, if you're impacted, if you know somebody who's impacted, if you're going through this yourself, it is overwhelming. We're here to help. We have some resources, so go to alientoaz.org/resource, and hopefully we can support you.